Gang, 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 gang.
Welcome back,
Nice,
everybody,
so good.
to
Sorry.
another episode of All Chat. God damn it, Aiden. Ruined my intro. How have you guys been?
I'll let you start, Aiden.
I've been okay. I've been playing Guild Wars 1 ever since I came home.
What? Dude, you
Yeah.
really do like boomer games. Like, not even Guild Wars
Yeah.
2, Guild Wars 1.
Yeah, I just play like games of my childhood. That's it.
When did this game come out?
I think like 2005. It's like
Holy
an
days.
MMO RPG game, but the problem is the massive multiplayer online part is not really active anymore. So it's just me kind of running around, my lonesome, and then every once in a while there's a Jabs tagging along.
Jabs plays with you.
Yeah. I wrote them into it.
Okay, what was the last new game that you played?
CS2?
Have you tried Deadlock?
That still
No,
counts as an old game. You haven't tried Deadlock yet? Okay.
I haven't played Deadlock yet. I
Counter
don't know.
Strike
What are
doesn't
like
count because that's like saying you like Dota 2 is like a new
okay, but
game
what are
too.
like what are recent releases? I played like Overcooked 2.
Okay. All right.
That's somewhat recent, I think.
Were you playing that
Yeah.
only because a group of people roped you into it?
No. Like I played through the entire game with Agnes.
Okay.
Played some. I played Lost Ark. That's like pretty new.
Okay. All right.
It's like that's like
How new
Like,
is this?
that's like
2019?
that's
Reasonably
new.
new.
Come on. I feel like that's new.
I mean, it's definitely not a boomer game.
Yeah.
You weren't lying about that.
Nope. I like old games.
Quinn, you went back home, right? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, I am the land of the free, home of the brave, etc. Sorry if you can hear the Eagles in the background. I thought I'd calm them down, but they get riled up sometimes.
They're just everywhere. They're all over America, you know?
They really are. If you've never been to America, for the record, they're like, you know how like pigeons and squirrels and other countries and stuff. It's like that's eagles here. They're like sitting on fences and benches, and it's everywhere, really.
Yeah, we actually don't have pigeons because the eagles just hunt them all down. As a result.
Yeah, it's a real problem. It's sort of like the emus with Australia type deal.
Quentin, what have you been up to since you got back home? What do you do when you're home?
Nothing really. I mean, the thing I do is not play Dota. So like, because my PC's not that good, and I'm also on 130 ping to EU, so my FPS plus the ping makes it to where it's not even an option. So I just don't even think about it because like playing pubs is just not a possibility. So I just don't play pubs. I hang out with my family. I catch up with friends. Just housekeeping stuff, which is nice.
Okay, fair enough. It sounds chill but boring at the same time.
There's a little boredom there, but I think a little boredom is good now and then compared to like the insanity of the Dota. Like I think it's healthy for like the human brain, maybe mine specifically, to be bored sometimes because I'm feeding it dopamine, yum, giving it dopamine all the time, and sometimes it needs, gotta pump the brakes a little bit.
Have you tried Blitz Dota's raw dogging flights method? Have you tried that?
No, that's insane. That's too much. He is a lunatic.
Okay. Hold up. Let's shit talk William for a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you genuinely believe that he actually like does it the way you're supposed to do it? Because I've seen Blitz on flights, and this man can't keep his eyes open after like 20 minutes. I feel like if you're raw dogging a flight, you're not supposed to fall asleep.
Yeah, you can't sleep. Sleeping is
Yeah, and
for sure.
I have no like I cannot imagine William sitting there and not falling asleep out of boredom within like 2 hours. There's just no way. I don't believe it. If you had to fly like to LA from Europe, 0% chance. Like a 1 hour flight, London to like Netherlands, yeah, okay. But like 12 hours, no shot. This guy's asleep after 20 minutes.
I also feel like that is really hard, like really, really hard to just stare at your screen for 12 hours.
I mean, when he gets interrogated about it, he does say like, "Oh yeah, like I watched like for 15 minutes. I looked at some other lady's screen, and was looking at the movie, or like maybe I fell asleep for an hour. I do genuinely believe, though, that he is insane enough to do it for a handful of hours. Like, I do actually think he is dumb enough to do that,
No,
actually.
okay. But like, I feel like William. Okay, I could also do it like as a bet. I would do it as a bet. Like if I,
Yeah.
fly to Singapore, raw dog it as a bet one time, no problem. Like I'll do it.
Dude, 15-hour flight, man. I don't know. Even as a bet, that's
No,
like a little
no.
much.
As a bet, I could do it. I have like the drive in me to do it that way. But I feel like to consistently do it and to post on my Instagram and Twitter that I am doing it, like as if it's something I do consistently, and like, nah, no way. William, no way. I 0% believe that. 0.
I think that's decently fair. Yeah. I feel like he probably fell asleep at some point in time. But
Yeah.
either way. All right. You guys want to start talking about TI?
Nope.
What? I expected that
Nothing.
answer out of Quinn, not you.
Nothing happened. Move on.
Okay, well, too bad. We're going to talk about the International 2024. And I thought it would be an interesting way, since it's just us three, for you guys to talk about like the journey from each of your perspectives. So, Quinn, start with you actually. How would like you guys start off Gaimin Gladiators? Who was in your group? Do you remember?
Who was in our group actually? I'm not even sure.
I will tell you. It's Extreme, One Win, and Heroic.
Ah, yeah, that does sound right. Yeah, I don't know. Our start is on Gaimin is always bad. We always kind of suck when the tournament starts a little bit. I think we sucked a little bit more than usual when the tournament started. Our boot camp was like kind of dicey. Our scrim results were like not very good, and not in like it's just scrims way, in like a okay, this is maybe a little bit worrying way.
What's the difference?
I think sometimes you can like you have stuff figured out and you're like moving in a good direction and like you've got a good grasp on things and there's just some stuff that's like left to click, and sometimes it's like okay, we don't really have stuff figured out and stuff isn't clicking, and like we don't like then you're like kind of catching up in like two aspects and a little harder. Like when you're just catching up on play or you're just catching up on draft, it's like a little easier, but when like little both are lagging, then it's like okay, we got a lot of stuff to fix here. Like not only do we need to work on this crap, but everyone individually needs to get their act together, and that's like a hard thing to manage.
So was this different from, you said Riyadh was a bit of a rough start and you kind of said everybody needed to get their shit together. Uh, but this was worse.
Yeah, Riyadh was like we had a insanely good idea of the patch, I think, at Riyadh. Almost from the get-go. I think we knew all the broken heroes, but we just needed to get our individual play together, and then once that was down, like it was kind of just smooth sailing because like all our heroes were just way too OP. Whereas I think this one was not. It was not the same for sure.
All right, fair enough. And the results showed you guys win 3-3. I don't know if that last game against Heroic mattered to you guys, because I think that the first game maybe
it had
secured
no impact on anything.
Yeah, so you guys win 3-3, maybe 4-3, but you lost to Extreme, which I imagine didn't feel too good. And then you go on from there with the seeding decider matchup. You guys ended up getting G2IG. You got Jack's team. How did that feel, Quinn?
I mean, if I'm being honest, it's a pretty good role. Like,
Yeah.
there's not having choice and getting them is a pretty good role. I think like on a team to team basis, we have a pretty good matchup against them, and also like they just weren't that good at that tournament. So it's like you feel pretty good when you also have a pretty good matchup against them, and they're also just not that good. Like it's a pretty lucky role considering we didn't have choice.
Yeah. Aydin, how did your guys' group stage start? Because you guys were in a group with Spirit.
Yeah.
So every group kind of had two invited teams, except for Group B for some reason. I don't know why they decided to do it that way, but they did. And so you guys were with Spirit, who obviously can be a really dangerous team.
Yeah, I mean we had you have it in front of you. I don't remember the other two.
It was Aurora and Beast Coast were the other teams.
Right. So we had Aurora and Beast Coast. I think track record against both pretty good for us. And then Spirit is like usually if they're in good form and we're not, we get clapped. And if we're in good form and they're not, they get clapped. So I think first day we both played like Aurora and Beast Coast. So both us and Spirit are like 4-0. And then the day after, we play each other. I remember coming into it. I think they've been pretty good against us in scrims because we play them quite a bit, and we thought they were like pretty hot for the CI. So I think like draft wise, they had like a pretty good idea. They were like banning. I mean, I was basically playing two heroes this event. I was playing like Clock and Tree at that point, and they were banning Clock and Tree in the second phase, so we didn't really get heroes. I was playing Tinker, I think, which worked out surprisingly good, but they kind of got us in the series 2-0, I think, just the kind of draft edge. And then we got to play
BB
Boom, I think.
team. Yeah.
Yeah. So Spirit picked Nouns, which I was like kind of happy not to play, to be honest, because I think Nouns are a lot more dangerous than people think they are, because they're not like, you don't have them as figured out as you do like the top 6. I feel like I know when I'm playing against like Boom what I'm gonna get. You know, I've played them so many times. With Nouns, it's a little bit more of like a wild card of what's gonna show up, and I feel like they're at that skill level where they're like, you know, they can easily beat you if you're not prepared for them. So Boom was like, I think maybe would have even been our choice if we had won our group stage. So yeah, and then I think our series against them was spicier than expected. I think they showed up like playing a lot faster than usual, but won in the end. So
Yeah. Real quickly, how did you guys walk away from the Spirit loss? Because that series didn't matter outside of choice, but it
yeah,
still was a pretty intense series. From what I gathered, seemed pretty close between you two.
yeah, I mean we lost 2-0, but I think the games were like quite competitive.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really remember. I think we just kind of said like it really doesn't matter. Don't really care about it. I think everyone's like upset after you lose for a little bit, but then like you don't overthink it too much. And we had like a similar thing in Riyadh when we played Entity or Cloud9. I don't know if they were sponsored already. But like we played them in a game that didn't really matter, and they just 2-0'd us. And I
Yeah.
think we were like a little bit upset, but then it's easier to move on from when it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Sure. You guys ended up having a really bad loss against Bedboom. The second game, you guys got 22-minute
Yeah.
GG'd. That was a rough one. You guys got Alchemisted and Kunkud and Chen and Nature's Prophet. Like a lot of heroes that I saw like later on to the tournament felt like were extremely meta.
Yeah. I mean, I think we just really messed up some gate move. I think like I gate to them really early on in the game, and I end up like ruining Neta's game or something. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think there was some like early game mistakes that really made that game a bit weird.
Do you,
And then
like
they just snowballed.
is the meta to a point where like one bad move like that you actually just like say like, oh, that cost us the game? Is it that
I mean,
snowballing?
yes and no. I mean, I usually like to think about like what I did and what I
Sure.
could have done differently. So it's like what I remember about that game. That was like, oh yeah, this moment was like my big mistake in that game, or like what I should have done differently.
Yeah.
So I think at least like from a support perspective, yeah. I mean, your early game, like whatever happens in the first 15 minutes, and even more like the first 10 minutes, it really sets you up for like having either a good game or like a kind of like a slow game where you're playing from behind. Either you get 3 bracers or you get 1, you know? And then
Yeah,
you die
that's
to the
fair.
Quinns of the world or you don't die to the Quinns of the world. That's just kind of how it goes.
Quinn, you guys lost a game to G2IG, who you said you felt pretty good. Did that loss? Did that guys teach you guys anything, or was that just okay? We screwed something up. Whatever. Go next.
I think that was like the first game where we felt the solar flare a little, where we like, because before
Yeah.
that I think we didn't really think about the spell that much. And then we played that game, and then there were some fights where we like died in like a way. I was like, what? How did we like? What even is happening? How are we all dead?
It's a solar
Um,
flare Luna. Yeah.
yeah, and I think we that series made us a little, or that game made us a little bit more aware of solar flare. But and we also were like, this Doom Hero's like not that good for us, or not that good. Like we're not that good in general. I mean, realistically, I mean that hero had an awful win rate. The only team who like actually
Yeah.
consistently picked it was Liquid. And didn't have a horrific win rate with it. Everyone else kind of like just lost every game with the hero. I think the hero just isn't that good, and Neta is just kind of like Doom specialist, so it's like a bit different.
Mm.
So we got off that hero a little bit, and game 2 was also like really won, and we just like threw in some stupid manner. So it was I mean it was a dumb loss, but it was also like I don't know. With our heroes, that game will be mess up. Like the game will get hard eventually, playing Insania King and stuff. So it's like, I don't know, you just go next.
Yeah. So you guys both end up in the upper bracket. You play one series, right? And if you win that series, you guys don't have to play until the final 3 days, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
guys, Team Liquid, you guys end up matching up against Extreme, and Gaimin Gladiators goes against Nouns. How did you guys end up matching up? Oh, sorry, it was Gaimin Gladiators had Extreme in their group. So, Aydin, you had you matched up against Extreme. How did you guys feel about the matchup?
I think I was probably like it was like one of the scariest teams I think you could face at that point in the tournament. For us, because like they play kind of similar to Spirit, I think, in some ways, and we just lost to Spirit. So coming into it, I remember like I was very much like I don't want to talk to anyone before we play. I just want to be locked in, headset on, music, like just zone in. Apparently, like at breakfast, I'd like completely ignored my team that were like sitting there, and they were like sitting there with Gorgc, and there was like some drama between me and Gorgc recently. So they assumed I like dodged because Gorgc was there, but I didn't even see them because I was like, need to focus, like zone in. But yeah, that series went like
I need to ask.
unexpectedly smooth. Yeah, what the drama is?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I don't know about this either.
I
No,
feel
okay,
like
so
Aydin,
it's
when it
really
comes to
silly.
talking about the matches, is like, yeah. But the
I mean,
rumor
it's
starts,
you
and
get
he's
caught
like,
off.
okay, here's the deal.
Okay, let me give it to you. No, but like, okay, this is what happened. I was casually playing pubs from home after Riyadh, enjoying my day, playing Dota 2, the game I love, and Gork shows up in my team. Great, Gork's my homie. Like we're homies. He plays carry. Unfortunately there's like 4 support players on our team, so I'm like, all right, this guy doesn't want to play offlane. I will tank it. No problem, guys. I will play a role that I am not good at playing for the team. Is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I go off lane. I just come off of Riyadh. At Riyadh, I played like Elder Titan every single game I could. So I'm like, ET is like my best hero right now. That kind of like works as an offlaner. I play ET off lane. Things are going great. We kind of smashed 3 lanes. Like the game is looking good. And at some point, I make the grave mistake of typing in our team chat that like the enemy has like no damage. We can just like keep going. Like we're strong. As soon as I type that, we decide to move 4 heroes into our jungle to take a fight, whilst our genius carry player decides I'm gonna solo hit the tier 2 mid. Alright? And then the 4 of us die, and Gork gets really mad and starts yelling that they do have damage at the top of his lungs. And he's like mauling because we're all dead, so obviously they have damage, clearly. And I'm thinking to myself, you just didn't come with us. But that's okay, no problem. All good. Life goes on. And then like he connects to the fight, and then he ends up dying as well. And now he's like open mic, yelling at the top of his lungs about how he has no damage. And I actually get really mad. Like if you're someone I know, and you do this, I get like offended. I felt the fire inside of me load up, so I actually disconnect from the game. I'm like ready to abandon. I'm like, fuck this guy. I'm out. He doesn't know this, but I just disconnected, and they like paused the game, and then like 30 seconds later, I calmed down, so I reconnected. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna play the game out. And then he keeps like ranting on about how they have damage and how I'm like trolling and not taking the game seriously. And this actually started. Okay, wait, hold on. I know because I watched back his VOD, so I know why he was like upset with me.
You were real mad,
dude. I was so mad. I removed him from my friends list. Everything. I was super mad at him. So I went back and watched his VOD, and at some point they had like an Earthshaker, and I was like, okay, if they jump us here, it's really bad, and they're gonna lose the fight. So I'm hitting the tower next to him. He's Alk, I'm ET. We're both hitting the tower because I want them to like go on us, and we like cook them. Gork did not like that. He thought, why is my idiot ET standing on top of me? If they initiate on us now, we're gonna lose the game. We had like 4 saves. I wanted them to go on us. But he took that as me saying, like, me not trying, and, like, trying to, like, grief him or whatever. And then, long story short, the rest of it's not that interesting. He's just yelling about how they have no damage, and he gets really, really mad. And I'm like, fuck this guy. I'm, triggered. And then we have, like, some exchanges in chat, which are not that interesting. but he's like starts flaming R5 for like buying a solar crest or something, or not buying a solar crest. And I'm like, yeah, bro, we have like Tinker and like 4 other saves. The non-solar crested pause 5 is the reason we lost the game. So yeah, that happened, and then like 2 days later, he messaged me. I was like, hey, I'm sorry, dude, and I was like, fuck you, you ruined my night. I'm mad at you. And then like 2 days later, he messaged me again, and I was like, you know what, it's okay. Sorry, I got so angry. That's the beef.
Well,
But it's settled.
I'm glad to hear it's settled. But your team, going back to the tournament, your team thought you were still mad at him or
Yes.
something. There's
So they
beef there
thought
still.
that's why. Yeah, they thought
I
that's why I
see.
didn't want to sit next to him. But yeah, Giga zoned in for Extreme, and that series was like a big confidence boost, I think, because I did not expect like the games to look the way they did. And then after we beat Extreme, I think I was like, we were all kind of feeling really, really good going into like the last 3 days.
Yep. So you guys have then at that point you guys don't have any matches to play. Quinn, your guys' game was a bit spicier, which probably backs up what Aydin was talking about, and that Nouns is a scarier team than many people credit them for. Honestly, I expected them to do a lot better at this tournament. They took the first game against you guys, and you guys are down a game. What was the discussion post game one? Do you remember?
Yeah, our heroes are a bit wonk, and we just played bad. Like I said, like our problems this game or this tournament were not like single faceted. Like there was like multiple problems. There was heroes, and there was also gameplay. And so I think this is just a combination of both. I think it was like, this is not like our play was not good enough this game. We could have won this game if we had played better. But also like we want to change some things about our heroes, and there's some stuff that's like a bit off and making the game unnecessarily hard. So it's a mix of those things, and you just try and fix it and go next without looking into it like too much.
Okay. So then you guys, it seems like, I don't remember exactly how game 2 went, but it seems like game 2 and 3 were relatively smooth sailing. You guys end up closing out the series 2-1. And so you're moving on to the final 3 days. You guys have this big stretch of time where everyone else is going to be playing Dota matches, rather. And what do you guys do during that? Was it like 4 or 5 days?
Yeah, I mean we were just scrimming.
Yeah.
We took one day off, and then the other days we were just scrimming. Our scrims went incredibly badly, unreal bad. We were getting completely massacred. We scrimmed Falcons like 3 days in a row, and we're just getting unreal stomped. They were going so bad. It's hard to really put it into perspective how bad they were going. So we were like trying to fix problems, and there were problems everywhere. That's what this TI felt like, was like some miraculous soup of we're bad and we've got problems everywhere, but somehow we're winning games. I don't know what's happening. Like it was a really heckin' weird tournament, because it felt at all times like we were like a sinking ship, but then we just like kept progressing further. It was very strange.
So
I know that feeling.
So
I feel like Berlin for us was the exact same thing. Yeah, sorry.
No. Well, that's really interesting because Berlin was one of the closest series you guys had with Gaimin Gladiators, right?
Was
By
it?
the end
I
of
can't
it?
recall.
Like they won one
Maybe.
game, but the games that they weren't like, besides the one they did win, I don't think Berlin was that close.
Oh, okay.
Like not in
Yeah.
like in a haughty way. Like I
Am I,
think the
am I
Dream League,
mixing up
they were
Bali?
better than us. We got
Okay.
lucky at the Dream League, and I also think Bali was closer than Berlin.
It was probably Bali. Then.
Yeah.
Bali
maybe.
went to 5 games. Is that right?
Dream League was 5. Bali was 4, but
Yeah.
one of the games was like there was like some shenanigans with pauses because
Oh,
of
right, the TV jug game.
the sun
Yeah.
in the
Game one.
window. Yeah.
Yeah. They unpaused on us and wiped us.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened.
Nah. But yeah, I know the feeling. It sucks when it's like that, because I remember, because you're so drained by the time. At least I feel like by the time you get to the end of the event, you are like problem fixed like for so long, instead of like building confidence and the ideas that are like good. I don't know if you guys have that, but I feel like that's like what usually happened to us. So by the time we would play you guys, like you guys would be like mega confident in your picks, and we'd be like, all right, how do we come up with a scrappy plan to beat these guys? A little bit.
Yeah, it was like we didn't have all our ducks in a row. We had like some stuff, but the stuff we had was like you know, you have bans, and so like our most broken stuff got banned, and our like we didn't have like that's how it needs to be, right, at tournaments, right? You need to have like the unreal broken stuff that just cannot be beaten, and then below that you need like stuff that is very very good and that you'll pick every game, because the impossible to beat stuff is being banned, right? Like Lone Druid and Brood are like unbeatable, like no one, they're impossible to beat, so they're first phase banned, and then we need stuff that like we're very very good with and that we can win any game with, and we don't have that, right? So then it becomes difficult because our B string of stuff is just not like we can win with it, but like it's not like the Gaimin Gladiators you pick, or the any team really at this stage in Dota. You pick X hero, it's like, oh yeah, that's a problem, and like and you know that the enemy, no matter what they craft, cannot deal with this hero. This is not possible because of your confidence in it or just the integrity of the pick or whatever, right? We just didn't have that.
Which is where like the Reddit meme comes around, right? Of like you play against X team, you don't ban Y, right? Like that comes around because there are other things that are even worse to play against, right? So you have to give them something.
Yeah, like Sand King is a hero that exists, you know, and so like there are things that get like limited and reduced because, or like Lone Druid is like literal unbeatable, impossible to beat hero. Like we can all unplug our keyboards and Lone Druid will just auto win the game, you know, like there's like stuff forces you into certain things.
So Aydin, what did you guys do during the break? I mean, similar situation. Obviously, you scrimmed, took a day off,
Yeah.
but
I
anything
mean,
notable
we
coming?
had 2 days off. At least, you know, Quinn and them, they were losing to Falcons. We were getting our asses handed to us by Avulus, which was like the only team that
Right.
was willing to scrim us. So yeah, Eki Dota and the boys were like, you know,
Stormer, yeah.
giving us the they were it's Stormstormer, Eki, Soneko, Zibe. Is that 5?
No, it's
No.
Smiling Knight too.
Smiling Knight, sorry. Yeah, they were giving us a treatment in scrims, like 20-minute, you know, like they were preparing us for Gaming Gladiators. It looked like, you know, some final of some events. Yeah, they were just kind of stomping us too. I don't think we won like a scrim during, because we played one win and we notoriously cannot beat one win in scrims. It's like impossible. They are like way too good. So yeah, no, kind of similar off day experience. We played football one day with like J, and I almost murdered Mickey on the football field.
How'd that happen?
I mean, maybe it'll be in a vlog, maybe it won't. Hopefully
Oh,
not. But I kind of like, he got past me, and then like winner mentality kicked in, and I was like, I'm gonna get back, I'm gonna catch him, and then like he stopped to shoot the ball, and I like kind of ran into his back a little bit on accident, and apparently I stepped on his foot, and he was like real mauled.
I
I felt pretty bad. I felt pretty bad.
You're one of your oldest friends and teammates. Just you just fucking tackle that man. Gotta win.
I mean, it was a tackle because I'm bad at the game, not because like I wanted to tackle him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like that.
Okay, so a couple questions. One, why? I feel like I've heard you guys do this before. Why did you guys scrim a team outside of the event? Why didn't you play one of the lower bracket teams?
Okay, literally nobody would scrim us. We
Really?
asked Falcons. Okay, yes, for the first time, like, okay, we asked Falcons to scrim, and they're like so confident that we're gonna drop to the lower bracket because we were playing. I don't know who we were playing.
Cloud9.
We were playing
someone.
Cloud9. I don't know, but they were like, "Yeah, you guys are gonna be our next opponent," like very confidently, and I was like, "What the fuck? Scrim us? Let's just scrim." And they were like, "No, we don't want to scrim you guys." So we asked Extreme to scrim us, and they said like, "We're really sorry. We really appreciate like you guys asking to scrim, but we had like some, you know, stuff after the series against you guys, so we just don't want to play you guys." Like, okay, all right, I see. And then I don't know who else is there, but like literally nobody wanted to scrim us. So I think like William was like at the point where he was trying to offer people money to scrim us.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, I don't know why, but Avulus agreed to scrim. Thank them. And they were really good. So it was good for us.
That kill any confidence? Because it sounds like you guys were full of confidence at this tournament so far.
I mean,
like you lost the spirit,
bit.
whatever, but you beat Extreme. Hey, what happened?
I don't know. It's just okay. You know how like sometimes you don't try in scrims and you're bad, and then sometimes you try to play as if it's a TI Grand Final and you like still get pumped. Yeah, it was the second option, like against them. I don't know. They were just good. I don't know. They were just honestly just good. They were like,
That's really
I don't want to
funny.
out their drafts, but they were picking stuff that like nobody else was picking, and it just seemed like because when you go to an event, you don't really play as many pubs as the people that just sit at home and play pubs all day. So you don't see like the meta develop in the same way, I think, when you're at an event, because you have like the tournament meta that you're focused on instead of like the pub meta. And I feel like they kind of had some stuff figured out that is like the progression of the meta, maybe, like question mark.
Mm.
And we didn't really have like answers for the heroes that they were playing. I feel like in the way we were drafting, so they just were setting themselves up for success, I think.
Fair enough. So, what was the discussion after you guys get your asses handed to you by Avulus?
I don't know. I think just like it's scrims, guys. XD, don't worry about it. Move on. Like don't think it like.
Big copium, big cope.
I think usually we don't really have like big team discussions after scrims. It's like kind of like everyone's own responsibility in some ways to figure out some stuff. And usually like when we play scrims, everybody's trying to like push their limit on something. Whether it's like, oh, I want to try like wording like this, or being more greedy here, or trying to do that, or stuff like that. I don't know.
Okay.
Don't really remember any special talk, to be honest. Yeah.
How often, both of you guys, how often do you guys give feedback to your teammates? Not necessarily like a team discussion, but like one-on-one, like, hey, or do you just like inherently just trust them to like recognize mistakes and improve on them?
I mean, I'd say me and like Mickey talk about laning stuff quite a bit, and
Yeah.
it can be like from both sides. Like how to enable each other's heroes better, or like if someone's understanding of some hero is like a little bit different than yours, or like I guess like most interactions are just based on like the times where your heroes connect on the map. I think there's feedback, but it's very rarely like, oh, 5 should do this. Like this is how you play 5. But in terms of like how heroes interact, I think quite often I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like if I'm talking about how my 5 lanes, that's unreal. But like if I'm talking about like how this like I think you should be at this rune, or how this rune interaction goes down, or like I don't think you sign up HP for this or something, like that's something different because it like pertains to my hero. Like so I have like some feel for it because it's like related to how my game goes, and I think there should be some temple hero or whatever, right? Like that stuff is like good to talk about because you're like offering perspective on something that is like related to you. But I think stuff that's like completely unrelated to your hero is like somewhat rare and generally falls just under other people's jurisdiction. Like it's their stuff to fix. And also like you don't want to cloud people's minds or like break their brain or something if you're like talking about something you're not really sure about. It can be like that can be dangerous. Depending like with how much confidence you're talking. It's different if you're like suggesting something like, oh, I don't know what you think about this, but I've seen this in some pubs, or this felt really strong when I played against it. That's like as opposed to like this thing you did here, this farming pattern or whatever. This I think should be different. Like that's you gotta be pretty confident to do that stuff.
All right, so you guys, Friday occurs, time to head to the arena. You guys play your first match. Aydin, you guys play up against Cloud9, who I did hear about this, that the thought was is that you guys were going to get worked by Cloud9, who did look like pretty good at this tournament. They looked pretty good at the previous tournament as well, and then at some point in time, they just kind of like flopped out. They played up against Aurora, who was probably one of the weaker teams in the upper bracket, but they 2-0'd them. You guys just have a match against them? How'd that go?
I don't really remember much about the C9 series. I do remember talking to William and saying that we think they drafted pretty well. We thought they like valued heroes quite well, so like, or it would be quite a big hurdle to just like, or it would be quite important to figure out how to get nice matchups against this team and to have matchups that we're happy playing against them, because they would be like quite contested. Like sometimes you play a team and you don't really share heroes, so you just get kind of what you want and then you like duke it out. And then you play other teams and like you share a lot of heroes, and then like the order in which you pick the heroes, or like you might have to prioritize a bit differently than you would want to, and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I remember about C9, that we were like, this is kind of a team where we have to be more careful about these things.
Because you guys don't share heroes, right?
Because we do share heroes, I think.
Oh, you
I think
do?
like Fishman was like playing kind of like Clock, same as me.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was necessarily just sharing heroes. I just remember it was like something about the heroes we needed to get right.
Okay.
And
I see. All I think when I think about Cloud9, I think about I felt like they had very unique heroes that they were bringing to this patch. They played Earth Spirit mid. They played Zeus mid. They were playing they had a couple
was it?
supports that nobody played, like Bane and Winter Wyvern. So that's
Yeah,
why I
I
thought it
guess.
was different. But
Well, you might be right. Actually, I don't exactly remember. There's been so many discussions, but I just remember it was something about their heroes. We were like, we kind of felt like it was like quite important to get right.
okay,
Yeah.
and it does go right.
It does go right. I don't remember the series at all for some reason,
That's
but
fair.
I think we two owed them, and I believe Nisha played a sniper against their Zeus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we just played like XM the day before, and XM is like this unreal genius of Dota when it comes to playing Zeus and Viper. Or sorry, Sniper and Viper.
Yeah.
It's just like nobody can do it the way he does, except the greatest copycat in the world, Nisha, that just watches like every single replay of every single player.
Mhm.
So I think at that point we were like, Sniper's just kind of hard to deal with. Let's just play Sniper. And then when they picked Zeus, it was like, oh yeah, this is like an old counter. But Zeus is just, I think, not that good a hero. So it wasn't. I mean, I wasn't too worried. But oh yeah, I remember. I have the game in front of me now. This game was a shit show. They were just like they were like fake gaming gladiators. They were just like gating on us and running at us from like minute zero. I feel like their coach had sat them down and was like, "Study gaming. This is what we're gonna do." But they were like doing it, like when you copy someone else and you just don't know why you're doing it. You're just doing what you've seen. That's kind of what it felt like playing against them. It was like a bit too aggressive and a bit too reckless and a bit too like just not. It didn't seem like they were that comfortable doing what they were doing. But the game was like quite a shit show in the early game. And then at some point I think it just slows down and we farm and then we win.
So wait, you think of Gaimin Gladiators as the team that abuses the gate the most?
I mean Falcons Gaming in the early game.
Okay, but
Yeah.
you don't think you're a team that abuses the gate the most?
I think we have like one. Okay, with Zai, I think we were really good about the gate.
Yeah.
Since Neta joined, I think we're like the worst team at using the gate in the world. Like if we gate, we are getting 3-0 wiped. Like it's like opposite.
Okay.
I think our gate moves the past 6 months have been an absolute disaster. Every time, without fail.
Oh, wait. So is that because Zai? I don't remember. Did Zai actually gate to you guys in the safe lane ever, and then 33 just doesn't do that? Because all I think is like when I think of Liquid, I think of like Mickey loves going through like playing Monkey King and abusing the gate as much as possible.
I mean, I think the Zai year it was like usually like this because we kept getting owned by like two supports running mid.
Yeah.
I remember at the time I was playing a lot of Treant, so I really wanted to gate at like minute 3. Like I didn't want to lane. I just wanted to like hit level 3 and go gate basically to the off lane and just like people weren't used to getting gated on, so it was like quite free. Nobody played around it at all. But I remember when we adapted to like the whole thing of like let's go 3 mid, like gaming does, then Zai started calling for Mickey to gate to him at the same time. So like when we would 3v3 mid, they would 2v1 Zai's lane. And this was like a thing that we were doing a lot back then. But I think it kind of died off. And now we just do like the Falcons one, or the gaming one, where like we both gate from safe lane to off lane. And then you 5v5 it out.
Yeah.
But that one is like I think new adaptation from us. It's not like I wouldn't say we were like ahead of the curve with that specific move. Like the one that we used to do last year, I think was like literally only Mickey and Zai that we were doing it. Yeah.
Okay. Quinn, do you guys think you guys are the gate innovators and leaders of this patch, or is that Falcons? What's your view on that?
I don't know, honestly. I know
I guess I'm
people
talking
talk
to a mid
about it a
laner.
lot. Like it's like I've like never clicked those things. So it's like I'm not exactly sure who started stuff. I mean, I know my team uses it a lot and I know Falcons uses it a lot. Like I think those are the teams that use it the most. But like I think there was some scrim that we got like Unreal clapped by some gate at some point and we're like, okay, something happened here. What is it? And then trying to figure that stuff out happened at some point. I mean, to be honest, every team uses it now, and also like there's a lot of stuff about this meta specifically that like allows it more. Like Falcons had Fury or sorry, not Falcons. Liquid had Fury in a lot of games, so like they're not gating. He's just like porting, right? So it's like a little different. but like, you know, everyone's playing Winter Ranger and buying arcane boots and using it, right? Like, as everyone's doing this at TRA, it's not a secret. So like it's to me, it just sort of felt like it was something that everyone was doing. It didn't feel like something that we like knew that was special or secret. Like everyone was using the gate.
But have you seen a Yatoro level 4 gate on your safe lane?
I mean, Yatoro will not do it. That's true.
Yes.
And Ame will not
Have
do
you
it
seen
either.
have you seen an Ame level 4?
Yes, those two players will not do it, but every other player will do it.
But a Diracho and a Skeeter, oh yeah, they will.
Oh yeah.
Ame and Yatoro are above the gate. They will not stoop to this level to walk through this portal. No. They will play on their side. They will get their items. You get your items, and then when we both have our items, we see who's better at using the items.
Quinn, you guys had your matchup against Tundra, which I thought was going to be the closer of the two upper bracket semifinals, just because I thought Tundra was really kicking it. But you guys worked them the first time you met them.
Yeah, they kind of just draft lost both games. I think they literally cannot win in any world either game. It's just full loss to draft. It's hopeless. That was kind of like when I walked away from the series, I was like, yeah, I don't know. They kind of didn't get to play.
So I guess that kind of it doesn't necessarily address, like when that happens, when you think it's a draft loss and you already feel like you have a lot of problems. I imagine you walk away from that series not feeling like you fixed problems, right?
Yeah, I mean, it like it gives you some confidence for sure. Like winning on stage is always nice. Always feels good. Or winning in general, like it induces some form of confidence. But I think like we became more confident in our ultra broken strats, but I think it didn't, like, we didn't build confidence in the B string, sort of going back to what I said earlier.
Yeah.
And so then whenever inevitably the unreal broken stuff stopped being given, our like second string was not quite good enough.
Yeah, because you guys played Lone Druid Broodmother in one game, and then the other one you had Sand King. So like,
yeah, we had Sand King Alchemist.
Yeah, so these are heroes that will never be picked again, I think, in your tournament.
We did not have any of those four heroes again. No.
At least against Liquid, anyway. So you guys, is there any confidence in seeing? Okay, we made it to the upper bracket final, and you see Team Liquid. Are you like, okay, we have a good matchup against these guys, or is it just like, ah, shit, here we go again?
More the second, I think. Like, I think variety is nice, and like while we've beaten Liquid a lot, like I saw some stat that like our matchup just in terms of games over these past 2 years is like pretty even. It's just finals that we've done really well in. Like finals we were 6-0 or whatever, but like across the year it was like 53% towards us or something over like 100 games. It was like pretty even roughly. So like you don't go into it thinking like they have like mental, like they don't have a mental block against us. It's just like, you know, it's just, I don't know, things work out how they work out. And then I don't know, we had stuff that like you can look at the draft, those drafts, and you can look at our heroes and you can look at their heroes, and you can see like, yeah, I don't think Gaimin is as comfortable playing these heroes as Liquid is playing theirs. Like Gaimin is not playing heroes that have fit them traditionally, whatever. You can look and you can see that. That's like it's not hard to see. And I think that was like in my eyes, like obviously they also just played better than us. But if I look at that series and also the grand final, like I look and I just let like just a cursory glance at the Dota buff pages, and I'm like, yeah, it just looks a little bit nicer for them. And I don't say that to like throw shade at it, like.
I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you fully. Like I think like most of the time when we played each other, I would say it's like the other way around in finals, where like you guys are just all playing like your shit, and we're like kind of trying to adapt. And I feel like this time was like the other way around.
Yeah, I think so. And like I don't say like I think like I don't say this to like throw shade at and like the people prepping our drafts or any stuff like this. Like drafts is like a very team thing, and it's like it's something that you build over the tournament. Like it's different in like scrims or something where like the drafter is just drafting and you're picking heroes and you're figuring stuff out. But in a tournament, like your drafts are something you build from the beginning of the tournament as you move towards the end, as you find heroes that are really good for you and you shave off things that aren't good. And most teams generally work in a way where they reduce their hero pools down to a few as you progress it towards the tournament. And it's just like, okay, A is bandwidth pick B, B is bandwidth pick C. And then like D and E are like situational, but like that's how most people like structure the tournament as it progresses, right? And you're at the end, you're never going to get A and B. And then our like they just had their C was just really strong, and our C was kind of shmeep shmop, and so like I think a lot of that is just on like the individuals and how like you progress as a team, like figuring that stuff out. And we just didn't have it figured out quite as well.
Have you guys ever had it where you were doing that, where your B and C tier weren't as developed and you were more experimental in that regard in these big matches and it did work out? Because you guys picked up Muerta, you guys picked up Clinks, you did a mid Riki, right? And like none of those things worked out in these iterations. But like, have you ever experienced that where you guys in the moment did manage to figure something out that worked?
I think it depends on different players. Like I think there will be like one or two players in each team that are less locked down. Like in this tournament, like mid is last pick every game. So like the mid players have a little bit more freedom, I think, for some teams in terms of like your last pick. So you see more, so there's a little bit more of like versatility in what you can pick. Like that Ricky pick is very good, I think. And we also should have won that game. We threw like baboons. Like we're up like 8k at some point, they can't interact with our heroes, and we just throw like dogs. But like this, the Ricky pick in that game is very good, I think, and it's like a situational like adaptation to what I see, right?
Yeah. So series happens, 2-0. I mean, you've already talked draft and such. Quinn, you know, like going from there, you're going to go down to lower bracket finals. You don't know who your matchup is yet. You still have to see the Falcons versus Tundra, you know, happen and stuff. Or actually, maybe do you? Yeah, that
We have
happens
not
after
seen
you
it
guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that happens after you guys. So you guys are sitting lower bracket final. What are you discussing before the final day?
I actually think we had the proper conclusions after that series. Our conclusions were, a lot of them were, I think what we played is not to our strengths in these games. Like they are winnable games. We could have won both games, but in neither game are we playing like stuff that is easy for us to play. And we should try to fix that a little bit going into the next day. I also believe this a pretty decent amount that like getting to top 3 is like pretty doable in every tournament. But what happens on the final day, there's a lot of randomness to like how things will shake out exactly and how people like perform on the day of, and like like us versus Tundra series, right? Like that like is like a hair away from Tundra going to the final, and then who knows how Tundra matches up against Liquid, or like maybe if we win game 1, right, we don't throw like idiots against Liquid in the final. Like who knows how the momentum shifts, and maybe bans change and how game 2 and 3 go, right? Like there's such a large degree of variance in like how one game goes one way or the other, and it changes things in like a massive way that like I think my feeling going into the final day was like, yeah, we'll change some stuff about draft. We'll try to play it a little bit more comfort. And then I don't know what's going to happen past that. Like, I'm just going to play and we'll see what happens, because it's really hard to like have a strong feeling, for me at least, of how, like, maybe Aiden disagrees on this stuff, but I like that's certainly how I feel how it breaks
No,
down.
I agree. I feel like to some degree, like when you get to the final days, you're also quite committed. Like everything you said, with
Yeah.
like how you do the draft stuff throughout the event, you build up your drafts, like the ABCs, whatever. At that point, you're just like, this is what we got, and this is what
Yeah.
we're gonna run. And then sometimes you look like a clown, and you get 3 out in the final, and people are like, "Oh, why do you Liquid Gaming 3-0?" And it's just usually like at that point, you just don't have that much else in the bank, and you're just committed to what you have. And then either it's good enough or it's not, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like we've talked about this in the past, but like Dota has moved in a direction where it's a lot about specialization right now. And like you can only, like, because of that, if you're going to go that path of specializing, right, then as the tournament progresses, you're cutting things down, and then like Aiden said, you're committed to the bit. Like it's just it is the way it is. Like you're not taking the style of we're playing everything and we're adapting to the situation. We're playing like the XG style of like you first pick whatever the heck, and we pick Phoenix, and no one's picking Phoenix. We pick it because it has a good historical matchup against this thing, right? Like only Extreme really does the Omega counter picking style. Everybody else just commits to the bit, and when you do that, like it's just like, all right, we'll see how things shake out. And I don't know how that's going to be exactly. I'm not a prophet, but like it's going to look a certain way because of how teams are just sort of function these days.
All right, so you're locked in. You play up against Tundra, lower bracket final. That series ends up being, I guess, well, it has probably the game of the tournament. Every other series at the final 3 days was a 2-0. This was the first one that went to a game 3. You guys start off losing to Tundra. You come back into game 2. You pick up Lone Druid, which seems to be sort of an auto win hero for you guys, and then you go into game 3. 69-minute game. What was that like, playing an over hour-long game of Dota in a lower bracket final to get you to TI finals?
Hold up. You're forgetting the best part. It was Quinn versus Ramses for TI Grand Finals.
To be honest, that beef is like so far gone. I didn't even think about it. Like I didn't even think like, oh, it's me versus Ramses. Like I don't even see his name. Like it's that far gone. I'm not saying that like as like a meme. I actually don't. I don't care at all anymore.
That's what we were talking about in the booth or like in the backstage. Quinn versus Ramses hype.
I mean, the game 3 was very like, it was one of those games where like it's not super like clear or cut and dry. Like it's not a stompy game, right? Right off the bat. So like it's things like slow down a little bit, and it comes a lot down to like there's a lot of team fights in this game, right? It's like a classic game 3 like main stage. There's a lot on the line. People like get clumpy, they get farmy, and you take big fights, right? That's what's happening in this game. And at some point we're in a really good state, and the game is pretty won for us. And then we take like 1 or 2 bad fights, and then this Slark with this like last pick Slark, very good Slark game, starts to like get out of control a little bit. They, Sand King memes start happening. And then I don't know, it's just we're just trying to play the game. It was honestly a pretty fun game. And if we lost, if we lost this game, I was like kind of okay with it, because it's like, I don't know, I try my best. And if we lose, then so be it. Then Tundra goes to the finals, and that's fine. Life goes on. We won, which is very happy. And the way we won is also very fun. You go through the gate and you click the throne or whatever. That's a fun ending.
Yeah, what was that conversation like? Because I remember like it was post 60 minutes. You guys had taken so many buildings away, but like these team fights were very dangerous. When did you guys come to the conclusion of like, yeah, we can just gate and end the game, and there's nothing they can do to stop it?
I mean, when they press glyph and their throne is 2,000 HP, that should definitely be a thought that's going through your head.
Mm-hmm.
That like we should right click the throne, and with no glyph and no buys and no whatchamacallit, and then we have megas and stuff. It's like it's pretty natural. Like, hey, fights aren't going bad. Like there's a natural progression there. That's like, all right, we should probably just try to kill a throne, and then we have gates, and then suddenly it just happens that way.
They cheesed them, dude. They killed the throne. It's the
How
ultimate
is that
cheese.
balanced?
You couldn't
Unreal.
take the honorable approach of beating them in a 5-on-5, huh?
Dude, it's like, okay, when Extreme Gaming take like your first tier 3 tower and they start hitting your throne, they're like cheesing you. It's cheesing. It's like the 2024 cheesing of not fighting and just hitting buildings.
Unreal
cheese.
All right, so you made it to the TI finals. I imagine you are exhausted at that point in time after playing that kind of like goes to a game 3, and the game 3 was extremely long. What did you guys do for the hour? Because you guys have an hour before the lower bracket finals and the grand finals.
We ate because we were very hungry. I think a lot of us, I know I was like very hopped up on adrenaline from that series, because it was very like, I was like jittering and shaking coming off stage. So a lot of the time I just spent like calming down and eating, because we were really hungry. And then we're talking about picks, obviously. It's like, it's a mixture of that, right? It's like the first half of it is spent like calming down, and then the second half of it is finishing off prep, because you can't, like, it's a bit XD to like do full prep for the team that you're not even playing yet the day before. So it's like you kind of have to focus on who you're playing next and go one team at a time. To some extent, obviously you do a little bit of prep, but it's like not, so we're just, finishing things off, talking about Liquid, what we want to do, or I think it's also a bit of an it was like an interesting feeling, or not something I've ever had before, where like we were in the finals last year too, and so there's like some like remembrance happening, or like some consideration of like, okay, what happened last year? What, like, do we want to be different this year? What went wrong last year? Things like that. And it's both sad and also interesting in that, like, the things that went wrong last year, I don't think went wrong this year. Like, I think we actually did fix a lot of the things that caused us to lose the last final, which is like, I think people were just a bit off. Like we were not playing in the same way. People were kind of scared in some way, or like we were not playing like ourselves. And I don't think that was the case in this final. Like I don't think it's why we lost. I think we were playing like ourselves in a lot of ways. We were just outplayed, and they had a meta advantage on us. And so it was weird, like coming away from that being like, I feel like I did all I could. Like I tried to fix all the problems and all the things I learned from the last final, and it still wasn't enough. And that's like a really weird feeling of like, how is that possible? You know?
I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but on that track, does that the fact that you guys played your game and it didn't work, was that not as bad as a feeling, I guess, than compared to last year's TI, where you guys like I remember we've talked about last year's TI before, and you said like we just didn't get to play our game, like we just didn't do what we wanted to do.
No, I think this year was a lot worse. Because I think it's when you play your game and then you still lose. It's like, okay, I just not good enough, I guess. And that was pretty soul crushing. Yeah, I think this year was definitely worse for sure.
I see. Backtracking a little bit, Aydin, what did you guys do for your guys's? You guys are watching that series. Did you think you were going to see Tundra or Gaimin in the finals? Like, especially midway through the series when like this game 3 is going wild.
I mean, I think everyone was like flip flopping a lot. It was like at some point we were like, oh yeah, Radiant's like way stronger. The game's over. Because I think I remember at some point I stopped watching because I was so sure like we were gonna play Gladiators. I was just like listening to my audiobook most of this event.
What book?
Stormlight Archive. I've listened to it like a billion times. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is this just like, is that something that helps you get in the mood, like, or in the zone, like something that you have already read before or listened to before, so you don't really have to pay attention per se?
For this event, it was just what worked. It kind of got me like, because I feel like with audiobooks you have to like focus on listening to not get distracted and miss what people are saying. So it just kind of helped me be focused, and then like that focus kind of helped me play better, I think. Because then it was just like you're shutting everything out, you're like focused on one thing. It just kind of worked for this. So yeah, I think I stopped watching at some point and just like went out to listen to the book. And then I came back and like this pure Stark has like 70 stacks of Essence Shift and is like cooking, and my entire team is like, okay, what are we doing against Tundra? Like, and then like 5 minutes later, and then I was like, but I think gaming's draft, if it keeps going like this, it's gonna look better. And there was like a lot of this going on. I know people were playing pubs, which is like the first time ever that we got to play pubs before like a grand final, be like a bit warmed up.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say also like this whole adrenaline thing, I think is like, I know the exact feeling. You play like the third place match or whatever, and then you have like 1 hour to go from like super hyped up from just like getting top 2 to like needing to fully reset and playing finals. And I completely know what Quinn means, and it's really tough. I think like your energy levels are just like a little bit all over the place. But yeah, no, that was it. We were just watching the game, kind of joking around. Quinn versus Ramses. Just, yeah, being idiots.
Fair enough. So you guys start the DI finals. Quinn, game 1, you said that if you felt like this was a game that you guys should have won.
Yeah, after how like the early game goes and there's a couple fights and stuff, we're up like 7k, game's in like a pretty dominant position. We kind of just like feed a bunch of kills to the Visage gold farm, and then our draft needs to play from ahead, right? And we feed some kills to the Visage gold farm, and then suddenly it gets a bit hard, and we lose one more fight, and then it's like, okay, now it's pretty rough. But it was just kind of some dumb mistakes. It's just unfortunate.
Did you guys feel that way, Aydin, when you guys were a bit behind? Looks like Dota Buff has it at like 16 minutes. You guys are like 6k behind. Was ever this like feeling or talk of like they're up, they're winning, like anything like that?
I think our confidence was actually quite high after the upper bracket final. So we kind of felt like we just needed like weather the storm, and then like eventually it'll just flip over to our side. It was kind of like, I think our mentality for the entire series. It was just kind of like outlast them, and then like if we're not, the game is over, then we're good. That was kind of like I think our mentality against them, even in the upper bracket series. So I think like we were just kind of like looking for any way to get back, more than like, shit, we lost. But it was I'm gonna be honest, it was a little bit scary when like minute one I just said first blood, and you look in the corner and it's like, shit, my mid laner's getting cooked. So yeah, maybe a little bit at the start, but I think like once the game itself like started playing out, I think we felt quite fine.
Okay. You guys take one. Game 2 happens. This is where I talked to Avery about like drafting stuff for finals, and he said he feels like game 1's draft is kind of like whatever. It's like you kind of put forward this thing, and then you just kind of see what happens, right? What happens based off that game 1. So game 2 is where you start making any adjustments that you feel like you need to employ. Game 2 happens. This one starts going bad around 15 minutes. Is there anything you guys want to say about game 2?
I just opened up the drafts. Actually,
Yeah.
I think this Ricky pick in game 1 is actually quite genius. Just like looking back at it.
Yeah.
Game 2, I remember Neta at like minute 2 was saying like, I am the fattest bristleback in the entire world, and like I'm so fat, like you have no idea. That's like all I remember about game 2. He like very early on felt super confident, and I think Neta's like not really that talkative usually. I think in the final he was like more talkative than I've heard him throughout the entire year. This Bristol game I think was like the starting point for that for him. He was like he was really feeling himself. Is kind of the only thing I remember about this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this game's kind of hard off of heroes in the start. Like, there's some point in the game where we just can't kill their heroes, and it just makes the game. They have Furion and they have Tusk. I mean, you can't kill the heroes and they have Furion and Tusk. Someone's gonna get yanked if you ever go on a guy, and it's just like it just becomes a problem at some point in this game that we just can't kill anyone. If we ever start on someone, they're getting yanked. It's like it's just that game is just hard to play. I think that game is like that game is another case of like we mess up the heroes, and this is a game where like we're trying to adapt a little bit, and like things are like a little bit off like normal for us. We have like Centaur, which is not like a hero that we like traditionally have had like too much success on. Sometimes, but it's not like it's not a classic hero. Just things are we have some 4 Naga. Things are like a little
4
bit,
Naga Siren was another thing that really stood out to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a game that's a little bit off, a little bit odd. Their heroes are just too hard to kill. They're just too tanky. We just can't. That game is like, I mean, we're kind of dodging the entire game. That game, like, and there's some point where we get Silver Edge, and then things like change a little bit, and then like the game is sort of playable a little, but they're still ahead like the entire game. This game really is. This game is pretty tough.
Yeah. All right, going into game 3. At this point in time, Liquid has played Nature's Prophet, and they've also done this this Shadow Demon Tusk support duo. I don't know how much you want to say about your drafting thinking processes, but I was curious, like, what you guys felt like was the problem with dealing with Liquid.
I think in hindsight, if we ran it back, we would have just given Doom over and over and over again. I think we made the wrong judgment call, which was that we wanted to ban Doom and Sand King, and then so we were like, okay, there's no we'll just leave both Wind Ranger and Furion, and they'll take one of them because they'll take one no matter what, and we'll just play against them. I think we did not understand how broken Tusk was enough. Like, we knew it was a strong hero, but we did not fully we did not pick it give it the priority we should have. I think that would have been that would have changed the dynamics of things a lot, because it would have changed their pick priority, because then Tusk would have become first phase, and they would stop getting Wind Ranger or Furion because they get second phase banned. When they start the first picking Tusk, like that, the Tusk should have become a first phase hero like very quickly in that series, and it would have changed the dynamics of things. I think we in hindsight we would have banned, like, if I got a do-over, I would ban Furion and Wind Ranger, and Sand King, and then I just give them Doom every game and just play against it. And I think that would have been a much better angle for us, because I think their second string of ranged heroes is still very good for them, but not as broken of just heroes. like the Razor and Weaver and stuff, like they'll pick some Razor, Weaver with Tree or Clock, whatever, and it's like that's heroes we can play against, and ours like schizo off the map broken as Winranger and Furion are.
Yeah.
I mean, I think from my perspective, it felt like the Prophet kind of, because I think, okay, what I feel like usually happens, and maybe this is not good to talk about, but it's genuine idea. I feel like we usually get quite outnumbered by you guys in fights, and you guys just like kind of catch us off guard a lot in the early game. And I feel like having the Prophet like ult and then connect kind of alleviated a lot of pressure where like we kind of make mistakes, but then I feel like even if Windranger was in the pool and Prophet was out, it would have looked different already in my mind.
Yeah.
But obviously, like I have this, like all the information of how our team works and the struggles that we have. So I feel like from our end, at least from my end, I feel like getting the Prophet was like chef's kiss. Like could not have been better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically.
And in hindsight, that's very clear, right? Or people like watching
Yeah,
are totally very
yeah.
clear. But like in the moment, like we're
It's
not like
super hard to see.
like Furion is like assessing that as compared to like the laning dynamics or like how is like this fighting work? Do we feel like we have game answers for this hero in terms of like like game counters or like what is this hero like the things that the heroes or like you're also considering other heroes, right? Are we like pre-banning something? Are we like do we feel like we can play against the Visage or like there's a lot of things you're thinking about answers for and having the clarity to see like what is truly the issue there and like really adjusting that is very hard.
I mean, I
very hard.
fully agree. I mean, I've played you in finals so many times, and I'm sure, like, from your guys' perspective, it's like, oh yeah, if they just knew, like, if they were banned this instead of that, they would have had so much of an easier time.
Yeah.
And I feel like you kind of know it yourself usually, like what kind of makes everything come together for you, but it's usually quite hard for the opposite end to like figure it out if you have like a wide enough hero pool where it's like it looks like the Ench is broken, the Chen is broken, the Underlord's broken, the Sand King's broken, the like every single hero they play looks broken, and you don't really know like what glues it all together. And yeah, I think like for me at least, I think the Tusk for sure, 100%, and I think the Prophet was like probably two of the most important pieces in like the way that like the final shaped up and played out. Because I think like I don't know if you agree, but I feel like the upper bracket series, like the first one, was like quite more. It was like more competitive in some ways, like the Doom into Klink's game.
And I think some of that shows like I think if anything that's somewhat indicative of what we're saying now, and that like in the first series, like you have the Tusk game too, and you have the Tusk Visage and stuff, and that's like I think that game is much like stompier. But like you look at the first game, and the first game is like we can very easily win the first game, and I think that comes back to like the Doom is good for them obviously, but I compare it to the other stuff, and I think it's not quite the same. And I think like I said, with a do-over, I think that would probably have been my approach.
Yeah.
When so Aydin, I think you said something really interesting about how you guys lose to Gaimin Gladiators, like how you feel. I was wondering, Quinn, how you felt about Liquid when you guys lose to Liquid. Like, what do you feel like the attributes that really showcase themselves? Like, what is it about them that ends up beating you when it does happen?
I think a lot of the time the game just reaches some state where like it's just hard. Like they pick a lot of fight, and they at some point they bring a lot of numbers to fights, and I think the games that like where we lose, oftentimes it's like the game at like 11 minutes. Suddenly it's like if they just bring numbers, it's just hard to fight them because either we've drafted in a way or we like the lanes are going in a certain way that like the tempo is not flowing for us, and things are like a bit dry and stale, and then they're picking more spells or whatever, and at some point it's just difficult to fight. And now we're in a weird position where our flow is bad and they have more spells, and it's like things are uncomfortable.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to say about that match?
No, I mean I just want to touch up upon the thing of like not really like it being very difficult to understand like what's actually crucial. Like I went back and looked at the Real drafts just like out of curiosity. And like Liquid took the approach of like banning Hoodwink and Snap first phase both games because we picked Hoodwink and Snap every single game, right? And they're like okay, we think that's like the key, right? Like we don't give them Hoodwink Snap and the Tofu's heroes are worse, and it's like their drafts fall apart. Whereas like, and then people on Reddit are like, oh, they're giving Chen every game. Why don't they just ban Chen? Like clearly, like Chen is the problem. Chen's broken because we're just picking Chen every game, like brain dead idiots, and they're just like we're just winning with Chen, right? And so people are like, Chen is the problem. Okay, well if you leave Chen, then we're picking Hoodwink or Snap, and we have like the second string of the Zoo, and like, or like, they should have banned Broodmother. Okay, well you banned Broodmother. Like there's all this garbage, and like trying to discern what really is there is like, in the moment, I can tell you it is just like, it's unimaginably hard to like really know for sure. Like you can guess, and you can like you can give arguments to or against any of these heroes as to why they're important or why they're not important. Like it's such a thing of like, you can play devil's advocate so easy for any of these bans, and all of it will sound. You can make very logical, very reasonable arguments for all of it. And so to like really figure out like, this one is right and this argument is wrong for this specific reason, and this is like the actual true crux of the like how the team works. Like it's so unlikely for it to occur.
In theory, that is where your support staff is supposed to be able to come in, and be able to give you, right, because you guys are playing in the game, so maybe you're biased in some ways about your interactions, your lane, whatever, or you have it for somebody who has like this, overview of the game is supposed to be able to give you more clarity. Is that actually the case? Is that like what coaches provide mid-series in these finals, or best of threes in general?
I think that depends so much from team to team, and I think it depends
Mm.
so much on the people that are involved. Like, because I feel like what you just said, I've heard William say, like the part about like, having a clear mind, not being emotional from playing the games, and seeing these things. Like for William, I think that is 100% true,
Okay.
and I think like for other people, it is less true. And I think for some teams, it's going to be a lot of like, on the players to kind of have like a good read of the enemy teams or whatnot. But I think it's really, really individual, and it really depends. But for us, I think like, yeah, William does try to play that part where like he tries to just, see it objectively and see it as for what it is. Like look at the game and be like, all right, well this was the problems. It's not like the lanes or whatnot. Like it's just remove gameplay and only see heroes instead of like just assume that people are gonna play the same way every time they same, or like, okay, sorry. It's like people make mistakes, right? Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of the times when you like look at Dota, you're like, well, if this just, people played perfect, we would have won this game. Yeah, but people make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. That's just kind of how the game is. And I think for William, that's like a strength of his to like calculate the correct amount of mistakes that people are gonna make and make the draft forgiving enough to still work, I guess.
Right.
I was curious. I wanted to ask you this. Since it's been a few days, like, how do you feel? And like, as a like, expanding on that, like, how do you feel about like your motivation or your goals? Like, I don't know like what your goals were necessarily beforehand.
Yeah.
But like, if it was winning TI, like, how do you feel like that shapes like the way you look at the game moving forward? Do you now have like I want to win the second TI, or I want to win the GOAT? Like, where does all that stuff stand for you?
I think for me personally, it's quite because I'm quite old, and I've been thinking about retiring. Like it's like every year I think about it. So having one TI, it feels really nice to know that I could retire now, having accomplished the goal that I set out for myself. And I feel like that for me is like the biggest thing. Of like 6 years ago or 7 years ago, I decided to start playing Dota with the goal of trying to win TI at some point. Um, and to know that like all these years and all this time that I put into it, I got to where I wanted to be, and I managed to do what I wanted to do. It's like it feels nice to retire having like accomplished that, even though like I would have said like I'm super happy with my career if I retired without it, and like I think I did great, right decision to play Dota for sure, but it's like an extra level of uh I don't know what to call it, but it's like just it feels for me it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders more than anything, um to be like I've done it, and I don't really feel like I have to win another TI, or I want to become the GOAT, or I want people to like think this or that of me. Like for me, it's more just for myself. It just feels really nice to know that like if I do decide to retire one day, I kind of did what I set out to do.
Yeah,
Does
that makes a
that
lot of sense.
does that
Hmm?
kill any, like, the downside of it? Does it kill any of your motivation or drive in that regard now that you have proven yourself as like being the best? Or I guess
I mean,
maybe that's to be told maybe for this year and see how it goes.
I think for like, I'm gonna play next year.
Yeah.
I still want to play, and the brutal truth of it is like none of us would make the money that we make doing anything else than what we do. I think,
Yeah.
like the players at least, like that's the
Yeah.
brutal truth of it. And I think you have invested like your 20s into learning absolutely zero useful life skills that are like you can put on a resume and be like, hey, this is what I did for my last 10 years and you should hire me because this. So I think trying to like set yourself up for the future and having as big of a buffer as possible is like quite a good motivation in of itself. And for me personally, I think like that is still a drive, and like it's not like I'm gonna show up to next year's TI and be like, I already won it, who cares? You know, like
Mm.
winning again would be really nice. But I mean, I think I have to see how the year develops. Because I feel like based on all the other people that have won, the problem kind of became that like when times get tough, you're maybe less inclined to put in the same level of effort and the same level of like I'm just gonna deal with this problem, even though it's like not fair or stupid or like whatever. I'm just gonna power through it. And I wonder. I think in those moments you will see potential cracks of motivation, or like, you know what? I'll just quit, rather than like I'm gonna power through it the same way I did all these previous years, or
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I think it's a really interesting thing that I'm really curious to see how it develops for myself. But as of right now, that's kind of like where my mind is at.
Fair enough.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Quinn, moving forward to this next year, how are you feeling? What has changed for you after this TI and this year in general?
I don't think anything has changed, I guess. Like I'm kind of back where I was, right? Like this year was different than the other year in that we were really awful for a lot of it, and then we kind of pulled it together at the end of the year. So sort of the inverse, where like the beginning of our last year was like unreal, and then towards the end it like faltered a little. Um, so I've sort of experienced both sides of the spectrum now of winning. Obviously not like the full thing, but you know, most of it. So for me, it's just like, okay, I guess it's just it's another year, run it back. In a way, there's like a bit of a like if you can Sisyphusian feel to it of like, all right, I guess we lost again. I guess we do it again now. I guess, you know, we push the boulder up the hill, and you know, and hopefully when we get to the precipice next time, we can actually get it over the edge. You know, like there's a bit of this feeling to it. I think there's also this element to Aiden said of like we make a lot of money. We make more money doing this than we would doing anything else by like degrees of magnitude. So there's an element of like it's just like a good decision to keep doing this because it sets you up for like financial freedom in the future. And that's an element that is, you know, very important to consider because it's, you know, it matters for longevity. So I think it's like a mix of a lot of feelings. Yeah, I'm not even sure I fully understand how I feel yet. Moving forward, it's sort of like a developing thing. But I'm very grateful for my team and for the success I've had. Like compared to North America and the abyss that like the first like 6 years of my career was or whatever. Yeah, I am very grateful. I also question how long I have left in the game because like I question this all the time. Like I've been playing the game for a long time. It's just most of it I just like, you know, got last place every tournament. And so like there's part of me that's like I just want to win TI so I can finally just let like okay, just prove this to myself, get this one last thing checked off, and then be done. There's also like that element that floats somewhere in there.
Do you resonate with what Aiden was saying about, like, you know, kind of, you know, getting that relief of like I finally did it, and that's
For sure.
yeah.
I think I would feel practically identical if the roles were reversed.
I have something I'm curious about. Do you feel like, because I feel like our win at TI, like it's like a lot of it is also just meta and patch. And I feel like both times you guys reached the finals, like last year and this year, I don't really feel like the meta was like that nice for you guys. Do you agree? I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
I
we'll touch on
agree.
it earlier, but I was just curious how you felt about like last year too.
No, I definitely agree. I think it was not like ideal for us or something.
Because I would say like playing you guys so many times in finals, like the feeling of like, you keep getting there and you lose, and you go there again and you lose. And like the sad reality ultimately, like I think part of it is just like if the patch favors you or not is like such a big deal at that point, I think.
Yeah,
Whether
it
you
is.
like win in the end or not. So maybe become homies with people at Valve.
Maybe that is the natural continuation.
Just have to. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
So I this could entirely just be recency, but I do want to point out the way that both of you just talked about this year. Basically, was that the year was a success or failure based off of this TI. You guys are both very successful, have had a lot of success this year, but like Quinn, you talked about this Sisyphean task of trying to push this boulder up the hill, and you said you just couldn't quite get it over. It just comes back down. Aydin, you guys had a lot of second places, and just didn't win a whole lot of these finals. Still very successful, but you didn't get the dub at the end of the tournament. But then you won this TI, and you feel like there is this big weight off your shoulders, and there's this relief that comes with it. This TI was not the biggest prize pool. It wasn't the biggest prize pool of the year. I almost imagine that you guys made more money off of all the other tournaments combined than this TI. So, what is it about TI that determines this year being a success or a failure? Like this one result, when all the other tournaments, still, we have these big tournaments, we have arenas packed, right? We have these ESL ones where fans show up, there's fans watching you live, you're in the stadium, there's a tournament out there with bigger prize pool. What separates TI and makes it so it determines everything else?
I would just like to say I think Riyadh in my mind is like in some ways like very, very important too for whether the year is successful or not. Like I feel like our last year, the second place at Riyadh kind of was like, this year has really been really, really good because of the money, I guess. And then sixth place at TI last year was like more okay. At least in my mind, TI isn't like a life-changing amount of money anymore, where like you win it and your life is just different from the next day that you wake up. But what remains of it is, I think, when you win, it is like you accomplish the goal that you set out for yourself many, 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 many years ago. And I think for me, at least, that's like the biggest part of it. It's like I believe that I can do this from a position where like it's like so far up the mountain when you start dreaming about it, and accomplishing it is just like, now I've climbed all my way up there. Whereas I think before winning TI would have also meant a lot of other things too. But I think nowadays that's kind of just like what it means. And in some ways, like I think everyone still views it as like the world championship, and the TI winners are, like the winners of the year ultimately at the end of it. But yeah, I mean, I think that is kind of like a subject for discussion in general right now.
Yeah, I think what Aiden said about like I think it's self-driven, right? That's what makes it like important. Like it's important to people because they set it as important 10 years ago, 15 years ago, however long ago that it was that every individual person started playing. They set it in their mind as this is what's important. This is the criteria for what makes someone successful or not, what makes someone's career a success or not. And so regardless of, like I can speak for myself, regardless of how much I'm told by the outside or by other people that like, oh, that's you've had, such a great career, y'all are, such a great team, whatever. At the end of the day, like, what's sort of been ingrained by myself in my own mind over the course of years is that TI is what matters. And so when that's not there, then like it's all self-ordained, right?
Yeah. I actually 100%, or at least some degree, understand what you guys are saying for TI, because I feel like for casters, it's some degree similar, right? We even get all paid the same, right? There isn't a bump for doing the TI finals or anything like that, right? So there is no additional monetary compensation for doing the TI finals, but if you do the TI finals, it feels like this year was a success. The higher up placement, like I did lower bracket finals this year, so I look at this year as like, yeah, I didn't quite get the TI finals, but we did pretty well, and that's even just like decided by Valve, right? That's not even necessarily like anything that like the community votes on or anything like that, right? So I totally understand. It's just something that you set in your mind as like a goal that you set, and like this is important. This is what helps determine whether or not I feel like I was successful for the year. And yeah, it's funny how that just kind of sticks around, despite the money going up and down.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say about this TI?
Let's talk roster shuffles.
Actually, well, yeah, well, we're going to talk roster shuffles if you guys want to, but I also actually wanted to point out one more thing. I forgot about this. The two most successful rosters at this TI were also the oldest on average.
Gang. Boomer squads. LFG. You need boomers, guys.
Why do you guys think that is?
I think it's a little bit random, to be honest.
Yeah,
fair.
I don't think age necessarily has anything to do with anything. Yeah, and that's kind of that. But I will say, every team that was good this year, with the exception of Spirit, had boomers.
Yeah, and Spirit Spirit is a very young team, but you could say they've been around for a minute or two. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I think experience in Dota matters a lot. Having been around matters a lot. Having seen patches matters a lot. Having like gone through problems and like gone through them matters a lot. Yeah.
Roster shuffles. We'll tackle it right away.
Do you guys want to leak one at a time? Like we all leak one, and then we'll see who can leak the most.
I would love that competition personally.
Yeah, you think you can cook?
You guys both have rumors about roster shuffles. Do you guys want to say anything about that? Start with you guys first.
I mean, I'm just gonna say I'm old and I'm thinking about retiring. The community can do the math.
Okay.
Nah, I'm just gonna let when people announce stuff, they announce stuff. Whatever.
Okay. Do you guys want to talk about any other rosters or any other shuffles that have been confirmed or rumors, anything like that?
Has anything been confirmed, Cap?
Yes, there have been.
What is a confirmed rumor?
Yeah, so I didn't actually think we were going to talk about rosters.
Neither did I. I've made a joke.
Okay,
I'm not leaking anything. I'm not going to be that guy. I think roster leakers publicly are like unreal cringe. The orgs get like this one time where they get to like make this big announcement. They get a lot of interactions. They get a lot of likes and like they create a lot of buzz. And you deflate all of their buzz and all of this in the attempts to divert the attention toward yourself in this like selfish, like just pitiful. I don't know. It's just so gross. It's so gross. Leakers are so incredibly cringe.
And you're not even monetizing it, right? If you're an actual writer or something like that, then
Yes, you're doing it just purely out of like puffing up your own ego that like I'm important because I know this information. It's so lame. It's so lame.
So there are a lot of confirmed things, but I want to stick with probably the biggest news, which is that Mira and Yotaro are going to be taking a break. You guys all obviously played against Team Spirit quite a bit. They're a tough opponent. It does seem like there's just going to be some general roster changes throughout this little section where it's going to shake up things quite a bit. Team Spirit have been kind of, I mean, they made that one swap with Toronto, Tokyo, and Laurel, but for the last, 3-4 years, they've been sort of like one of the icons of the scene. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think it's really sad
Mhm.
because I think out of like all the Dota teams, Spirit was like they played a way that I don't think really anybody else did. Like, with maybe the exception, like the closest thing is like Extreme. But they added like like a 4+1 team to the scene of like that kind of in many ways I think they play like older school Dota, but in a very modern way. And I think removing them or like not having them around is gonna mean more of like how to say it. I don't know. In my mind, like the more puppy styles of like where you have like 3 cores kind of on your team. These 3-core play styles, and it's quite sad to lose like that kind of like one of the top tier teams that played like 4+1 and made it work. And I think it will like trickle down to the scene as a whole. Like you won't have people that are watching Yatoro and want to play like Yatoro. Now you will only have like, and no offense, but like Skeeters, Durachos, Mikis, like these like more active types, and it will maybe like limit the development of the game. And like if you have no people that are trying to force hard carries into metas, then maybe they will just like die off, and it's kind of sad in that way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's reasonable for them to take a break. I think I mean, I wonder how long it'll be before they come back. But I definitely think Spirit is like a team that is pretty like fundamental to like the Dota ecosystem. And like, I mean, I think all the stuff Aiden said is very true, and I agree with all that. I think Yatoro is also like one of the greatest players ever, one of the most like talented, just insanely clutch players ever. And so I think just not having him at tournaments for however long it is just like it's just a bit sad because I just think he's like insanely, unbelievably talented and skilled. And so having him in games is just always fun to watch. He's just like the modern day Miracle or whatever in terms of like a person that people are like hyped to watch, and it's just like that. Like I think he's the only real comparison you can have nowadays to like Miracle in like that era.
All right. I think that
Speaking
will.
of, hello, hold up. I just opened Reddit. Did you see the new Nigma roster that has been announced? Hello? Miracle
Dude,
is back!
I knew.
Miracle
I
is back!
knew that somehow. Like I was just like, I'll just stick with the Team Spirit one. There's a lot of like conjecture back and forth, but I knew in the back of my head, I was like, Aiden's gonna talk
I
about
just
Nigma,
opened Reddit.
100%.
Dude, Nigma is back. Hello, this is big news. Who cares about TI 2024? Yes! And Quest, see, they've stolen 2 of the Quest players.
West is
So,
dead.
like, they've like
West
and
is
they've
dead.
eliminated their like competition at the same time.
Oh my
That's
god,
actually
that
a
is
crazy smart move.
I
Holy
feel
crazy.
like
crap!
we need to talk about the Unreal
Galaxy
Genius
Brain
roster moves
Ligma.
of Nigma Galaxy. Yes, this is genius.
Yes. So their roster is Miracle, Omar, Noob, GH, and Sumail. And Kuro is also registered with the team in some ways. Does that mean he's going to be coaching or what? And that doesn't seem exactly clear.
Okay, mark my words. This Nigma team will win one tier 1 event this year.
Bold
Promise.
prediction.
For the viewer, if anybody remembers, I'm fairly certain that Aiden did a mark my words last year about Nigma doing something.
No. Last time I talked about Nigma, I said I really hope that they crush everyone and then all the haters are proven wrong. I'm saying this year they're gonna win an event. I'm a believer.
Win a tier 1 event.
At least one tier 1 event.
Okay.
At least only based.
Elite League in Peru counts.
I see.
Nah, but like a Liquipedia tier 1 event, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's a lot of other rosters that are in flux and a lot of other rumors and stuff. And a lot of smaller rosters have already been announced, but I don't think we really need to talk about that. I feel like this episode's good to be able to wrap it up. Maybe we can talk about the all the rosters that when they are all been announced, we can talk about that next episode. But for now, thank you guys for joining me for talking about TI. I want to thank both of you, by the way, for coming on this podcast, doing it with me, especially after all of these finals, since you guys have both been in that situation and coming on here and talk about it. I know people really appreciate it. So from them to you guys, thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys. We'll see you guys next time for All Chat, which will probably be at least a couple weeks. So we'll talk about rosters and the upcoming tournaments and all that sort of thing when we can. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.